So you will not be asked for any money tonight. So relax, take notes, and learn. You'll hear things that you want to implement in your business tomorrow morning. In fact, at the end of this class, he is going to give you a gift worth $300 if you decide to accept it. Hugh is going to be your coach for this evening's class. So let me tell you just a little bit about Hugh. All right. So for those who don't know, Hugh Little is the sales wizard at Redcap Sales Coaching and Elite Sales Academy, where you can learn to make selling easy, fun, and profitable. He specializes in helping chiropractors and other service-oriented businesses dramatically increase their conversion ratios, sales, and revenues. Hugh's sales training and coaching comes from over 51 years of in-field sales and sales management experience. So you get the real-life experience from his teaching, not just something out of a textbook. Hugh is also the author of Take the Icky and Scary Out of Sales. If you don't have a copy yet, you have to get one, which is available in paperback or Kindle versions at Amazon.com. He's also a radio talk show host. His show, Sales Chalk Talk, is available at redcapsalescoaching.com. And when Hugh isn't teaching business owners and their teams, he's home in Seabrook, Florida, with his wife, Priscilla, Jasmine the dog, and Mooch and Minnie the cats. He has 6 children, 12 grandchildren, 3 great-grandchildren, and 1 great on the way. He plays guitar and bass, sings, writes music, and records it. So get ready to learn. Here is Hugh.
Well, Savannah, thank you so much. Savannah, the sales wizard. Really appreciate you being here and doing this with me tonight. That's great. Hey, everybody, welcome to the locker room. It's time to do some strategizing before the second half starts tomorrow. In a football game or almost any kind of a ball game, there's always a break. There's always a halftime, some time for the coach to go back into the locker room with the players and talk about what went really well in the first half and what needs to be improved or what needs to be changed in order to have a really successful second half and be able to win the game. So that's kind of what we're going to do tonight. We're not going to talk so much about what went wrong in the first half. We're going to talk about some strategies that you can utilize to make the second half really absolutely stellar. So I am going to share my screen with you. What we're going to talk about tonight is actually, I thought 7 sales strategies sounded really good. I'm going to give you an extra one just for free. We're going to look at 8 sales strategies that you can use to make the second half of your 2021 a whole lot better than the first half was. I want you to know that what we're going to talk about tonight is just going to be the snowflake on the tip of the iceberg. There's not anywhere near enough time to talk about all of the really good stuff that you need to know in order to excel at sales. You will have the opportunity to get more information when I share a gift with you at the end of the call if you choose to take advantage of it. What I want to talk about first is how to bring more prospective clients in the door. That's kind of the first step in the process. You need to be different. You need to be different and you need to do things differently if you want things to change. Things will not change if you don't change. Things won't change if you don't make changes in the way that you're doing things in your practice or in your business. So that's kind of difficult in a way because most people don't like change. In fact, I've heard that the only people who really like change are wet babies. So you probably don't like change all that much, and yet it is necessary if you're going to be really successful. So I want to talk first about social media. Social media has been used over the years very, very successfully in gaining new prospects with whom to have sales conversations. And it's become more and more difficult over the years. And I want to suggest to you that trying to connect with people with your Facebook business page and do Facebook advertising is kind of chancy at best, because they change the algorithms all the time. And unless you invest quite a bit of money, there's not very many people that actually are going to see your offer or see the announcement of an event that you're doing. The other thing is that on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, some of those other places, there tend to be many more mom and pop kinds of people who are involved. So my very favorite social media platform is LinkedIn. It's one of my favorites because, first of all, you can target locally. You can actually connect with people who are in your locality, or you can connect with people who are in an industry that you want to work with. I work with a lot of chiropractors, and I love working with chiropractors. So when I'm sending out connection requests on LinkedIn, I send a lot of connection requests to people who are chiropractors, and I can target that particular job. And so all I'm sending messages out to are the people that I really want to work with. Another advantage to working with LinkedIn is that people on LinkedIn tend to be from a higher socioeconomic level than people on other social media platforms. For example, CEOs, managers, C-suite executives, HR people tend to be on LinkedIn, and they're on LinkedIn because they want to develop business connections. So in a lot of cases, it's much easier to connect with people who have the money to purchase your products or services and who are willing to have conversations with other business people. So those are some of the reasons that I really do like LinkedIn, and I think that it's one of the better platforms for you to be involved in if you're in a service-oriented business, which I think everybody on the call really is. So another way that you can differentiate yourself is think about using snail mail. It used to be that that was about the only way that you could market in writing before the internet. There are some of you who haven't been around long enough to remember when there wasn't an internet. When I first started selling way back in the 70s, if you called somebody on the telephone, there wasn't even an answering machine. You just had to call people until you got an answer. And there wasn't any such thing as the internet, and there wasn't any such thing as social media. So the way that you communicated was either by telephone or by snail mail. And because of social media, because so many people are using it and people are so used to it, I think just about the only thing that I get in my mailbox is flyers from people and bills, which isn't really exciting at all. If you can send people a hand-addressed envelope and put a really nice invitation to an event in there, or tell them about a special that you're running, that can be really, really effective. People like to get things in their mailboxes other than the usual junk that they get. And the other thing is that with email, if you write really good subject lines, there are people who will open that email. It's just so easy, though, to send that email to trash. I do it all the time. If I don't know who I'm getting the email from, or if the subject line doesn't really grab me, I just hit the delete button and make it go away, and I don't even bother to open it. When somebody gets a hand-addressed envelope in the mail, they're going to open it. So they may not respond to your offer or to your invitation. They'll see it, though, because they'll open the envelope and they'll see what's inside. So just think about utilizing that. And if you do utilize snail mail, be sure to check out the different housing areas in your locality and send emails to the zip code of upscale neighborhoods where people are more likely to open your email and have the money and have the desire to do business with you. And of course, you can send email to businesses. If you send email to businesses, try to find out who the owner of the business or the manager of the business is, address the envelope to them, and just write personal and confidential down in the corner of it. The receptionist or whoever processes the mail will be much more likely to put that piece of mail on the boss's desk, and the boss will open it up to see what's going on. In essence, you're getting to the potential decision maker when you do it that way. So in order to be really great at sales, it is tremendously important for you to develop a successful sales mindset. And the first thing is your philosophy of sales. I'm going to share with you my philosophy of selling. And I think this is a philosophy that you need to adopt if it isn't already your philosophy of sales. It is not your job as a salesperson to get other people to do what you want them to do, or what you think they should do, or even what you know they should do. It's your job to help them do what they want to do. There's a big difference in that philosophy, in that mindset. Because if your mindset is that you're going to get them to do what you want them to do, they're going to feel the energy of that, and they're going to feel it as pressure. And when people feel pressured, they don't buy. So make sure that your mindset when you go into a sales conversation is, I'm going to have a great conversation with these people. I'm going to find out what they want and why they want it. I'm going to find out whether they qualify to be my client or my practice member. And we're going to have a great conversation. And I'm not going to be attached to the outcome. If they decide they want to do business with me and I want to do business with them, then that's great. They can be a client. If they don't want to do it, that's okay too. I'm not going to try to twist their arm or get them to do it. I'm not the jackass whisperer, and I'm not going to do that. If you go into the sales conversation with that philosophy and that mindset in mind, everybody's going to be more relaxed. Your prospects are going to be much more willing to listen to you and hear what you have to say and thoughtfully consider their decision. They'll feel comfortable giving you that decision, whether you say yes or whether you say no. I've mentioned a couple of times that it's important to find out what people want and why they want it. Let's talk a little bit about the difference between wants and needs. You buy what you want. You usually don't buy what you need. That's not what drives sales at all. People buy what they want. They don't buy what they need. You can just look around at folks, or maybe look around your own house or office, and it's very easy to see a bunch of stuff that you bought that you really didn't need, but you wanted it at the time that you bought it. As an example, over here in one corner of my office, I have 8 guitars. I probably don't need 8 guitars. I probably could get by with 2 or 3. I wanted all of those 8 guitars. They all sound a little different when I'm recording music, and I really wanted them, so I bought them. And I didn't buy them because I needed them. I bought them because I wanted them. So if you are, for an example, a chiropractor, people are coming to see you because there's something that they want. They want to be out of pain. They want to be more healthy. They want to be able to sleep at night. They want to be able to go to the gym. They want to be able to go to work. They want to be able to do the things that they really want to do. If you are in the real estate business, people are going to buy the house that they just fall in love with and they really want it. They may not need a house that big. They may not need a house in that particular area. They might not need a yard that big. Shoot, I've got a half acre of lawn at my house, and thank goodness I've got somebody else that mows it. I don't need anywhere near that much lawn, but we sure wanted that house. And so we bought that house. If you're in the heating and air conditioning business, people aren't going to buy necessarily what they need. They're going to buy what they want. In a lot of areas, it is actually possible for people to live without air conditioning. You can buy a big fan, and that takes a lot less electricity. It doesn't keep you as cool, but at least it keeps you kind of cooled off. And so people will buy what they want because they want it to be nice and cold. They want it to be 68 degrees in their house, no matter what it's doing outside. So People will buy what they want, and you've got to find out what they want. You have to go underneath the surfacey stuff. And again, I'll use chiropractors as an example because I know that there are a number of chiropractors who are tuned into this call. If you have somebody that comes into your office and you ask them why they came in and they say, well, because my lower back's killing me. And you can ask the surfacey questions like, how long's this been going on and what have you done so far to try to fix it? And on a scale of 1 to 10, how severe is the pain? And all of those kinds of things are really surfacey things. They don't deal with the emotion that's behind them. If you talk with them and ask them questions about what are you not able to do right now that you'd really love to do, on a scale from 1 to 10, how important is it to you to change your health? And you get down to the emotional level and talk to them about what's really going on, how their life is being affected because their back hurts. Then you're getting information about what they want and why they want it. Listen, most salespeople really don't do that. In fact, most salespeople don't ask a lot of questions. We'll talk about questions in a minute. Most salespeople don't do that. They spend their time telling people how great their product and service is and how long they've been in business and what they do and how they do it and giving them all kinds of information. Ask questions and find out what your prospect really wants. And if you can give them that, you're well on your way to a positive buying decision. You need to set the stage for a successful sales conversation. And the first thing that you need to do is eliminate distractions. All of your focus when you're having a sales conversation needs to be on the person with whom you're having the conversation. So if you're thinking about the disagreement that you just had with your significant other or one of the people in your office, and that's really bugging you and it's on your mind and you're thinking about it, your focus is in the wrong place. If you're thinking about the stack of bills that you have on your desk and you've really got to make some money because you got to pay those bills, your focus is in the wrong place. If some of you may work for other people, if you're worried about what your boss, your sales manager is going to say or how mad they're going to be if you don't make a sale and you know you've got to make a sale or they're going to be upset, if you're thinking about that while you're having the sales conversation, your focus is in the wrong place. And even if you're thinking about what you're going to do when you get off work today, you're going to go have some fun, or what you're going to do this weekend, your focus is in the wrong place. Your focus needs to be on what the other person thinks, how they feel, what their situation is, what their challenges are, what they want to change in their lives, how your product or service can really help them make that change. So you need to take some time at the beginning of your conversation to eliminate those distractions and just make sure that when you walk into that sales conversation, you are there to help that other person do what they want to do. And that's the only thing that's going on. And the reason that's so important is that there is an energy that passes between a salesperson and a prospect. And they feel that energy. And if they feel like your energy is on making money, or you're distracted by something else, or you're not really paying attention, and you're not really concerned with what's going on with them and how to help them, if they feel that, they will not buy from you. And you probably have had that experience at some point with a salesperson, and it was something you wanted, maybe even something that you needed. The price was right. The salesperson did a pretty good job of explaining it. And it was time to decide whether you wanted to buy from that person or not. And you just got that feeling in the pit of your stomach that, I don't know, there's something wrong here. I can't put my finger on it. I don't know what it is. I just don't feel comfortable. So I'm just going to tell them I want to think about it, and I'll look around and see who else might be able to help me with this. Almost all the time when that happens, when that feeling sets in, it's because the salesperson's focus was someplace besides on helping you. So don't let that happen to you in your sales conversations. The next thing is, you need to stay relaxed and you need to walk into that sales conversation with total confidence. So you may have to do some work around eliminating fear before you walk into the sales conversation so that you can be relaxed and so that you can be confident. You may have some what ifs go through your mind, some negative what ifs. And we all tell ourselves stories about what will happen if, and usually they're negative stories. What if they say no? What if they don't buy? What if they think I'm being too pushy? What if they go tell their friends not to come in and see me? What if nobody comes and buys from me? What if I go out of business? So we can make up some really, really great, horrible stories to tell ourselves. Whenever you hear a negative what if pass through your mind, immediately change it into a positive what if. What if they buy? What if they love my service? What if they go tell all their friends how great I am? What if all their friends call and want appointments? What if they come in and they buy? What if I get rich? And when you change that negative what if into a positive, speak it out loud to yourself. And if you have time, write it down so you can see it. If you will do that, you will eliminate most of the fear, if not all of it, that you feel about having a conversation with that person. Use a script that's been professionally written, a script that has been proven to work, a script that actually helps you feel totally confident when you go into the sales conversation because you know what you're going to say and you know how you're going to say it. If you've been selling for more than 2 weeks, you already have a script. You already pretty much say the same things to every person that you talk with. So it's not whether you have a script or not. That's not the question. The question is, how good is the script that you have? How well is it working for you? What's your conversion ratio like? If your conversion rate is less than 50%, you need to do some work on the scripting, or you need to have somebody write you a script that really does work and that really is effective. You need to have a conversion ratio somewhere north of 60% to be doing what you really want to do in your sales efforts and in your business and bringing revenue into your business. A lot of people don't like scripting. They feel like it's going to sound canned and they feel like it's going to restrict them. My experience with scripting has been totally different than that. When you learn the script and you know what you're going to say and you've practiced it, you've rehearsed it, it's like second nature. You don't even have to think about what you're going to say because it just flows naturally. It's all part of your conversation. You can actually spend your time listening to what your prospect is saying and watching their eyes and their body language and listening to their tone of voice and the emotion behind what they're saying so that you can respond even more effectively to them. If you're sitting there thinking, well, you know what I'm going to say if they say this, and you don't know what you're going to say, you're not able to listen closely. So if you don't have a script that works well, you can have one done by somebody at Red Cap Sales Coaching. You can have it done other places. Just get yourself a script that really does work and then stick with that. Don't vary from your script. Don't go off script. And you will find that if you have a script that works and you stick with that script, you'll just make sale after sale after sale. It is tremendously important in your sales process to ask questions. In fact, just about everything about selling is about asking. Building rapport is about asking open-ended questions. In a good verbal agreement, which is a part of the sales scripting, there are 3 questions that are asked. You need to ask a ton of questions to find out what your prospect wants and why they want it and what their situation is and how important it is to them to change what's going on in their life or their business. And so you're asking questions there. Whenever you make value statements, you need to ask questions at the end of the value statement. How does that sound to you? When you are asking for the sale, you're asking questions. When an objection comes up, You're asking questions. So if you're spending more time in your sales conversation telling people things and educating them and telling them about how you do what you do and everything that's involved and everything that you really would like for them to know about what you do and how you do it, if you're spending more time doing that than you are asking questions, you need to change. You need to do that differently. And unfortunately, that's what a lot of salespeople do. Back in the old days, they used to call it show up and throw up, and just tell them everything that you possibly know about your product or service, your company, yourself. I remember when I was in my early 20s and I had a sales conversation, my wife and I did, with a young lady who was in the financial services business, and she was talking with us about doing investments and financial planning and so on. And she spent about an hour and a half telling us all about her company and all about the corner office she had and the car that she drove and how successful she was and the vacations that the company had sent her on, and just talked and talked and talked and talked about all of those things. And honestly, the only reason I bought from her was because I was 23 years old and she was drop dead gorgeous. So I went ahead and bought. And probably now I wouldn't. That isn't good sales. And she spent very little time talking with us about what we wanted and what we needed and how we felt and what our situation was. So be sure that you're asking more questions than you are telling people things. Make all of your questions open-ended questions. And one of the things about being successful in selling, folks, is that you need to form habits that make you successful. Asking open-ended questions is not a habit for most of us until we do the work to make it a habit. We've been used to, ever since we were little kids, hearing people ask closed-ended questions that can only be answered yes or no. We're not used to people asking open-ended questions, and we're not used to asking open-ended questions. We learned how to ask closed-ended questions. So my suggestion would be to start asking open-ended questions in every conversation that you have, whether it's a sales conversation, a conversation with your spouse, a conversation with one of your kids, with one of your friends, with one of your coworkers, no matter who it is. Ask all of the questions that you ask open-ended and really get in the habit of doing that. Now, an open-ended question is a question that can't be answered yes or no. You can make any question into an open-ended question by putting who, what, where, when, why, or how on the beginning of it. And the reason that that's important is that you will get so much more information when you ask an open-ended question. A closed-ended question, there's only two possible answers, yes or no. That's it, just one word, yes or no. And if you want to find out what your prospect wants and why they want it and whether they're qualified, you have to have a lot of information. So ask your questions open-ended all the time, every time. The other thing about questions that's really important is that they give you information. The prospect with whom you're talking, they know all kinds of things about themselves and their situation that you don't know yet, and you need to know. That's an important part of the question asking process, is for you to find out the information that you need to know that you don't know yet. Questions can also be very, very effective, especially if they're open-ended, at helping people look at a situation in a different way. Just as an example of that, if somebody is thinking, wow, that's really expensive, and I don't know whether I want to invest that much money to have that particular product or service, by asking questions about how much too much is it, and if you could have the perfect service available to you and you could do it in a way that fits your budget, what would that look like? And just really trying to find out what the situation is, and at the same time having them think about how important is it really for me to make this investment? How worth my money is the service that I'm going to receive? What kind of value am I going to get? And when you change the conversation from, ooh, that's a lot of money, to, wow, that's a lot of value, and actually, yeah, I can afford it. It might be a little tight. I could do that though, because it's important to me and I want what you can give me. I want the result that you can give me. Questions can help change the direction of the conversation. And the person who is asking the questions is the person who's controlling the direction of the conversation. Now, you're not going to monopolize a conversation. You certainly, though, want to control the direction of it. And if it starts to go in a direction that's not positive and isn't going to get your prospect what they really want, then it's really important to ask some questions that change the direction of their thinking so that they can have what they want. Let's talk a little bit about value and value statements. You're probably familiar with the concept that people only have one thing in their minds when they're talking with somebody who's selling them a product or service. And that question is, what's in it for me? How is this going to make my life different, better, more comfortable, easier, more productive, more profitable, more peaceful, more calm? What's this going to do for me? People are not so interested in or invested in what you do and how you do it as they are the result that they're going to receive from what you do. So in your sales conversations, when you're making value statements, you need to be talking with your prospects about what's in it for them. You need to be talking with them about what they can receive as a result of working with you. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples of that. There's not really anybody who wants sales coaching. That's not why people buy sales coaching, is because they just want sales coaching. They want the results that they can receive when they have a sales coach. People don't go to the chiropractor because they want to go to the chiropractor. They go to the chiropractor because they want the result that they're going to have when they walk out of the chiropractor's office after they've been adjusted. People don't want to buy an air conditioning unit. They want to be really comfortable no matter what's going on outside. So if you're talking with people about what you do and how you do it and all of the things that are involved in it, you're talking to them about the wrong things if you want to be successful at selling a high percentage of the time. I'm going to give you one more example, and that is that I absolutely love sausage. I love anything that comes off a pig. Sausage is my favorite. I don't care how it's made. I don't care what's in it. All I care about is when it comes out of the skillet and onto my plate next to my eggs or my pancakes, I want it to make my tongue jump up and beat my brains out because it just tastes so good. I want the result. I don't care about how it's done. And sometimes salespeople feel like they have to educate people during the sales process, that they have to tell them everything that they know basically about their product or their service or how it works or what's involved in it, what you're going to do for them while you're caring for them, how their product is going to work. All that person wants to know is, how's this going to be really cool for me? How is this going to help me out? How's this going to make me feel? How much am I going to enjoy this? There is a time for educating people. I'm educating you right now, and we're not having a sales conversation. We're talking about education, educational things. When people become your clients or your practice members, you're going to want to do a lot of educating to help them really take advantage of your product or service and get the results that you promised them. Because for most products and services, and especially services, they need to be involved. There's some energy that they have to put out. There are some things that they have to do to really make it work. And so you're doing some education then. A sales conversation is not an educational seminar. A sales conversation is a process of finding out what people want and why they want it, and letting them know that they can have it if they do want it badly enough, and if they're willing to make the investment that it takes to have that product or service. When you make a value statement, make sure that it's a you statement. And this is another thing that all of us need to form habits to use you statements instead of I, me, us, our. We need to talk about you and your. Because the question is, what's in it for me? Well, the direct answer to that is you can have, you can do, you can be, you can enjoy, you can learn, you can take advantage of, you can. So much of the time in marketing efforts and in sales conversations, it's about, well, we do this and we have this wonderful product and we have great service and our office does this and does that. And our policy is this and that. I absolutely hate. I just love to help people do this, that, or the other thing. Nobody cares whether you love to do that or not. What they want to know is, what's it going to do for me? What kind of result am I going to have? What's going to happen? So make it a habit to use you statements when you're talking about the value of your product or service, instead of talking about us, me, my, I, we, our kinds of things. Asking for the sale is the part of the sales conversation that most people dread and they're afraid of. They're afraid people are going to say no. They're afraid that they're not going to buy. They're afraid that people are going to argue with them. They're afraid people are going to be mad at them. They're afraid that people are going to think they're a sleazy salesperson. They just dread the part where they have to ask for the sale. Asking is important. Jesus of Nazareth said, ask and you'll receive. And that's absolutely true. And I also believe the inverse is true. If you don't ask, you don't receive. So if you want somebody to give you an appointment, you got to ask for the appointment. If you want somebody to buy, you got to ask for the sale. If you want somebody to give you a referral, you got to ask for the referral. Actually, the ask for the sale piece is the easiest part of the system if you've done everything else that we've talked about tonight really, really well. Asking for the sale is like falling off a log. It's the easy part of the process. So just a couple of things. You need to ask a transition question after you give your value statements and before you show them the options that they have available to them to buy your product or service. The transition question that I like the best is just, how would you feel about trusting me to get your air conditioning system installed so you can just be comfortable all year long? How would you feel about trusting me with your chiropractic care and to partner with you on your journey to optimal health? How would you feel about trusting me to be your coach and help you work through some of the challenges that you're having in your business and your life right now? That's a great transition question. And if you've done a good job in the first part of your sales conversation and you've done all of the things we've talked about so far, the answer to that question is almost always going to be, oh yeah, I'd absolutely trust you to do that. And you have to have a positive answer to your transition question before you move into the actual ask for the sale. Ideally, you need to have 3 options available for your prospective practice member or client. The first one is the least costly, the least out of pocket. The second one is more money out of pocket and there's a savings overall that takes place. The third option, there's a big savings to take care of everything up front, and it's the most money out of pocket. And the options need to be presented in that order. So after you talk with them about option number 1, option number 2, and option number 3, the next thing that you need to do is make a suggestion, because you are the professional, you are the one that knows about your product and service, you are the one that knows about the different options. You can make a suggestion to them. based on our conversation so far, it sounds to me like maybe the installment plan would be the best plan for you. Or it sounds to me like maybe a larger initial investment and smaller monthly installments might be just the ticket for you. Or, I would just suggest, if at all possible, that you take care of the whole thing up front, because you're going to save a whole lot of money and you're not even going to think about money anymore as you're using this product or service. You won't have to do that. And then to finish off your ask for the sale, all you have to do is say, and of course, it's not my plan, or it's not my air conditioning unit, or it's not my health that we're talking about, and it's not my budget, it's yours. So which one of those options do you think is the best fit for you? And then you just have to be quiet and wait for an answer. And it's really important not to keep talking until they say something, until they give you an answer to your question. Which one of those options do you feel is the best fit for you? If you talk before they give you an answer, you run the risk, and it's a very high risk indeed, that you will leave without a positive buying decision, that you won't make the sale. You will talk them out of making a positive buying decision. The longest I ever had to wait for somebody to speak was about 15 minutes, and it was the longest 15 minutes in my life. It seemed like 3 days. And I had turned an agreement around, placed a pen on top of it, and said, all I need is your okay on this agreement, and we'll be all set to implement everything and be ready to go. And the guy looked up at the ceiling, he looked down at the floor, he looked around, he looked at the agreement, he kind of thumbed through the agreement. He didn't say anything, and I just sat there and smiled and waited and didn't say anything. And he finally picked up the pen and put his okay on the agreement. I'm convinced that if I had said anything, I would not have gotten that sale. If I had said, oh, you know what, there's one other thing that I forgot to tell you about, I would have talked my way right out of the sale. So absolutely do not do that. Present your 3 options, ask them which option they like the best, and then be quiet. There are 3 things that can happen when you ask for the sale. They can say yes, they can say no, or they can offer an objection. And the most important thing when you hear an objection is do not panic. And sometimes salespeople really panic. Somebody says, well, that's a lot of money, and I don't know if I can do that, or I don't know if I really want to pay that much money. And the salesperson says, yeah, but just think about how important your health is to you, and you really need to do this. And they move into the person's space and they start talking faster and louder. And then there are only 2 things that can really happen. You'll scare the prospect to death, and they'll move back away from you, and they won't be able to get out of your office quickly enough. Or they will move forward into your space and they'll start talking faster and louder. And all of a sudden you have a confrontation on your hands instead of a conversation. And you don't ever want that to happen during a sales conversation. So don't panic, sit back and relax. An objection is not a no. If you've done the sales conversation well, they've already told you that they want what you can provide for them. They've already told you that they trust you to provide that. They're just seeing some kind of obstacle in their way to having what they want. And the only 3 obstacles that they're going to see are money, time, or fear. Some people are just afraid to make a decision because they're afraid it's going to be the wrong decision, or they're afraid they'll give you a whole lot of money and then it won't work for them. And so there's fearfulness, or it's more money than they thought it was going to be, or it's going to take more time and more effort than they thought it was going to. And so they're not saying, no, I don't want to do this. They're saying, I'm seeing an obstacle in my way to having what I want. So if you can help them move past that obstacle so that they can have what they want, you get a positive buying decision. If you panic and start thinking, oh no, they're not going to buy, I've got to get them to do this, all of a sudden your mindset isn't in the right place anymore. They're going to feel that energy. They're going to perceive it as pushy and pressure, and they're not going to buy. So you've got to sit back, you've got to relax, you've got to talk a little slower, and you've got to talk a little softer and just relax. And again, you have to have a terrific script for answering the 5 basic types of objections. Every objection that you get can be answered using the same framework. The content will vary depending on what the objection is. The framework is always the same. Empathize, ask questions, try to help them find a solution and move past the obstacle that they're seeing, and ask them for the sale again. Empathy means saying something like, say you get a money objection, saying something like, boy, I can really appreciate that. I think everybody's watching their budgets nowadays. I know I sure am at my house. So I understand completely where you're coming from. You haven't told them that, yeah, it really is too much money, you shouldn't do this. You've just told them that you understand where they're coming from, that you have something in common. You understand, and it was really okay for them to raise that point. A lot of other people have. Didn't throw you off track, didn't scare you. And you understand what they said. And then you can ask a question or a series of questions to find out what the objection really is and what's really going on with them. You can talk with them about the value and the benefit that they're going to receive. They ask for the sale again is really super easy. It's just, how willing would you be to go ahead and get started and just see the difference it makes for you? That's all you have to ask. Very, very easy to ask for the sale. I want to talk about one more thing in answering objections. Do not be too quick to drop your price. Most of you probably are able to negotiate to some extent in your sale. A negotiation always has a floor underneath which you will not go. What you really want is what you've shown them in the options. You want them to invest the full amount that you have asked them to invest. If they're not able to do that, you might want to negotiate down and provide a different kind of service or a smaller amount of service for a lower price. Just don't be too quick to go there. Spend time answering the objections. Spend time finding out what their situation really is, what their concern really is, and try to answer that concern. And if you find out they're not going to be able to financially do or time-wise do what they need to do to have your product or service at the full investment amount, then go ahead and negotiate. Just don't do it too fast. Don't be too speedy about that. The last thing I want to talk about is what you need to do to follow up and retain your clients over a lifetime. And the first thing is that everybody who comes into your office or with whom you speak, while they're communicating with you, they need to feel like they are the most important person in the entire world. That you are so happy that they're there. You're so happy to be providing service for them. You're so happy that they're your client or your practice member. And you know what? One of the reasons that's really important is that sometimes when they're in your office or when they're talking to you, that's the only time that they get to feel important. Their significant other doesn't make them feel important. Their family doesn't make them feel important. Their friends don't make them feel important. When they're with you, they just feel like they're the king of the world. They're really, really important to you. So be sure that you're conveying that in every communication that you have with every one of your practice members. And when you do that, people will love you. They won't go someplace else to get the same service that you provide. They'll stay with you for the rest of their lives, or as long as you're in business. You'll be their person because they know that in your eyes, they're extremely important. Stay in touch with your practice members or your clients. This is the time to educate. This is the time to teach them about the things that they really need to know about taking care of their health or taking care of their finances or making sure that the product that you've sold them is working really well. Talk with them about the things that they can do to maintain their air conditioning system so that they don't have challenges with it, or their automobile, or whatever it is that you're selling. Educate them, send them emails with educational content in it. On top of that, also send them greeting cards or emails on special occasions, birthdays, holidays, those kinds of things. Let them know that you're thinking about them. And when you reach out to them, don't reach out to them just to sell them something every time that you talk to them. Just reach out to find out how they're doing. How's everything working with whatever product or service they bought? Once again, they will love you. They will stay with you. They'll be your client forever. And the last thing is, let them know what's next. Let them know that there's a next step. Chiropractors, let them know that after their immersion period, that they can go to the next level. It'll be time for them to graduate. And there are some really cool things in the next level that are going to move them even closer to optimal health. And their health is just going to increase like crazy once that initial immersion period is over with. Air conditioning and heating people, let people know that you're going to be checking in with them on a regular basis to make sure that everything's going well, that the unit is doing what it needs to do, that they're comfortable, that they're not having any challenges, and that you're going to check in with them about having maintenance done on a regular basis. If you're in the financial profession, be sure that you're letting people know that there are going to be reviews that are going to take place, and that you're going to get with them and go over their financial picture again and make any changes that are necessary. There's something that's coming up next. And there are way too many salespeople who make a sale and then they forget all about the client and they never contact them again. In fact, I've even run into a couple of companies that tell their salespeople, well, after you make the sale and you get their name on the dotted line and the check, put everything in your briefcase, leave as fast as you can, and don't ever call them again because they might change their mind. And that is really short-sighted, because even people who tell you no doesn't necessarily mean never. It just means not right now sometimes. And so if you stay in touch with people, if you send them educational stuff, if you send them greetings on holidays or birthdays, and you stay in touch with them and you stay top of mind, they may become a client later on, or they may refer other people to you. So be sure that you stay in touch with people. And those of you who have products that are installed or serviced by somebody else, that doesn't mean that your job as a salesperson is over once you make the sale. You make calls and make sure that everything is okay and that they're feeling really good about their purchase and that they're not having any challenges, because that gives you the opportunity to ask them for referrals. It gives you the opportunity to stay top of mind so that when they make their next purchase, they're going to call you instead of somebody else. So those are some of the things that you can do to ensure that your second half goes better than the first half did, and that you have a higher conversion ratio, you make more sales, and you make more money. Now, Savannah told you at the beginning, and I mentioned to you, that I have a gift for you that is a $300 value, because if you spend an hour with me, typically that's what you'd need to invest to spend time with me. Because you were on this call, or you listened to the recording of this call, if you would like to have a free strategy session with me for up to an hour and talk about your specific needs, your business, your sales, ask questions, you'll get some great ideas and tips and strategies during that session. You'll find out whether working with me as a sales coach might be a good fit for you or whether it wouldn't. And listen, I know what you're probably thinking right now. Oh, I don't want to have a strategy session with this guy because he's a sales guy and he's going to try to talk me into working with him, and it's probably going to cost a lot of money, and I don't want to do that. I promise you, there is no charge. There is no obligation for you to do anything after we have that conversation. you can have me as your sales coach if you want to, and you don't have to if you don't want to. And nobody's going to give you any trouble. There's not going to be any pressure whatsoever for you to do anything that you don't want to do when you have that conversation. That's the next step. And it's an important step for you to take if you're not scared, because you've gotten some good general information tonight about things that you can do. Implementing those things and talking about the specifics of your business and how it runs and what your needs are is the next step. And you can do that, and you can do it for free if you want to. All you have to do is go to bit.ly/wizard-strategy. And I'll give you just a second here to write that down. Savannah, what questions do we have in the chat, if any?
We got one question.
Okay.
Do you want with financial representation?
Oh, I know who Claudius is. And yes, I absolutely do work with financial people. All right, folks. Well, we certainly do appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to participate in this class and to learn the things that were taught. Take action and implement these things, and you'll find that they will make a tremendous difference in your sales and your revenue and your life. Hopefully, I'll get to talk with some of you or most of you in person. Until then, make it fun, make it profitable, and good selling. Have a great evening, y'all. Take care. Bye.